Hey guys, it's Maymay and it's time for another top tip. Today's top tip has to do with foam pads and stamping. A lot of you guys have asked me, why do I not use a foam pad underneath my surface when I'm stamping, especially because these guys don't have any foam. Now let me back up for a second and explain this. Back in the day when we were using woodblock stamps, I say back in the day, I still have an extensive collection and I love them. Woodblock stamps that had a red rubber usually had a piece of foam between them so you could get some give when you press them into the page. When we started doing the photopolymer or the clear stamping, that foam went away. There are some cling stamps that have foam, but I typically don't use them anymore, and I use these clear stamps that we can see through and don't have padding. So most people have decided, since I don't have the padding here, I'm going to replace the padding under my page by using a mouse pad or a little foam sheet. It works with Fun Foam, what have you. Now, I don't find that works well for me. I find it causes me to get a halo almost every time. I've done a top tip video on the halo already, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But with that foam sheet, for me, what I get is a much greater opportunity for that foam to cause my paper to push up around my stamp and grab ink that I don't want. What I want to do instead is kiss the page with this stamp and let it transfer. If you're struggling, now listen, this won't work for everybody. If you have trained yourself to use a foam sheet and you have your pressure down just like it should be, keep using your foam sheet. There is no shame in that game. But let me show you this. Do you see how the image looks here when it's inked? I want that image to transfer. If I have a foam sheet, for me, behind this, and I press it, I end up getting that halo. I'm going to sit this in place, and I want to show you this. I am not pressing this. We're going to do a little experiment. I'm not pressing it at all. I'm just letting it sit there, and I want to show you the result I get just from letting the ink transfer. I'm not pressing, okay? Let's just pick this up. Just giving the ink time to transfer without pressure gave me that image, okay? So not rushing it. Let me show you what happens when I do it like I normally do it. I ink it up, just like this. I place it down, nice and gentle. I wiggle the page, no stress. And then I take my fingers and I put a little pressure toward the middle, just a little bit of pressure, still allowing that ink to transfer, but not using a foam sheet underneath it. I don't need that, not for me. And then I can lift this up and look at the difference in my image, a nice, perfect image. For me, a flat surface, a flat stamp, and allowing that ink to transfer is a much better option. When I use a foam sheet, I tend to overpress and get a lot of extra ink around in places I don't need it, okay? I also have noticed when I use a foam sheet, I tend to wrinkle my page a little bit. I have a heavy hand, obviously. Now, you're thinking, but you use a Misti and it has a foam sheet. You're right. I don't know why I don't have the issue with the Misti. I think I have a theory. Here's my theory. So this is the Misti, and the foam sheet we're talking about is the removable foam pad that comes in it. The reason I believe I do not have the same issue with the foam in my Misti is because the Misti does not allow me to overpress. I can only press so far. It shuts the door, the image goes in, and that's all I can do. I can slightly overpress with the Misti, okay? Because I can get in there and put my heel on it and go a little crazy, put the heel of my hand on it, but if I use the Misti just as it's created, I put my stamp in, I shut the door, light pressure, it doesn't allow me to over squish. So that's why I think the Misti doesn't give me that problem, and I always use my foam sheet in here. I really have to, because without the foam sheet, the clear, it's too deep to do with the clear acrylic stamps. It's made for doing with foam stamps. All right, so that's what I think. I've been trying to figure that out. I'm like, okay, so why don't I get it with the Misti? Well, it's because it doesn't allow me to overpress. I do believe that's the answer. All right, guys, I hope that helped you out if you're having trouble with that. Hey, if the foam sheet works for you, use it. I'm telling you, there's no shame in your game. If you're getting great stamping, don't change what you're doing. But if you're finding that you're struggling and maybe this top tip can help, there you go. I hope it did just that. Hey, until our next top tip, have a great one. Bye-bye.